Mr. Mike Fessy, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next, Mr. White Cully, would you please give us roll call?
Yes, sir. Seat A, Chucky Sheremy.
Here.
Seat B, Rodney R. Gisclair.
Here.
Seat C, Jimmy Lafont.
Here.
Seat D, Rodney J. Gisclair.
Here.
Seat E, Curtis Pierce.
Here.
Seat F, Larry Griffin.
Here.
Seat G, John Melisson.
Here.
Seat H, Mike Cully. Here. Seat I, Chris Cully.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Next, we have approved minutes for December 11th, 2019 regular meeting. I need a motion.
Move.
Moved
Second.
by Mr. Larry Griffin, second by Mr. John Melisson. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next, we have Director's Report. Mr. Shasso.
Thank you, Mr. President. First on the agenda is our Northern Expansion projects. Northern Expansion Slip C 400-foot East Part 2 bulkhead, Picciola and Associates. Joe.
Yes, Sea Level Construction's the contractor. They've driven all the steel sheet pile and they've placed a whaler in place. They've excavated for the concrete dead man, and they have concrete piles on site. They're going to get ready to start driving them later this week.
All right, any questions? Northern Expansion Slip C 1,100-foot East bulkhead, Picciola and Associates.
This is the new project in line on Slip C. Shaver's Widow was the low bidder. We gave them a conditional notice to proceed on December the 16th. They're currently purchasing materials right now, blasting and painting sheet piles, getting the site prepped to start working. They should be on site to work either later this month or sometime next month.
Any questions?
Yes. What was the cost of both those projects, to refresh us on that?
The 400
You can round
foot.
off.
The 400-foot bulkhead, $2,584,000, that project. And we have $2,327,000 of DOTD funding on that one. And the 1,100-foot project is a $6,539,000 project for the contractor, and actually a $7 million total with $5,800,000 coming from DOT. So they're priority projects from outside funding.
So like
Thank you.
9 million altogether
All right.
Yep.
for 1,500 feet.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. Minor Sheremy Senior Road Paving Project, Angelette Picciola. Mr. Larry Picciola.
This project is complete. The contractor was Barney Talbot. In the construction committee, you have up for approval the lien-free certificate, so this cleans up this project.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Larry. And the Coastal Wetlands Park. Thad.
As I discussed on Monday, at long last, the viewfinders have arrived. So we got those in. Just to remind y'all, that was a grant that we did, that we received through Louisiana's Cajun Bayou. So now the plan will be to take 2 of those and put them out at the public boat launch on the upstairs area, and then take 2 of them, handicap accessible and just a regular one, and put them out on the mitigation area. So we have to build the platforms out and everything, but hopefully sometime in the spring we'll have an event and we'll be able to debut those and have those out there. In the meantime, we are continuing to work through the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund through the second submittal process and getting everything in line to make a submittal in April, and then hopefully hear back some really good things pretty much in the summertime in regards to our request there.
All right. Any questions? Thank you, Thad. Moving on to airport projects. Joe Wheeler.
Before I start with my operations count, y'all have a piece of paper in your folders of the 2019 economic impact for each airport in the state. So back in 2015, they started this study as part of the statewide system plan of airports. So I just wanted to go over our 2015 numbers and then give y'all what our 2019 numbers are. So in 2015, we had an employment of 346 people, based aircraft 31, annual operations of 13,560, economic output $57.2 million per year. So fast forward to 2019 to now, employment's 529 people, based aircraft 54, annual operations 27,078, economic output $97.6 million. So in those 4 years, the economic output of the airport has jumped a little over 40 million. So obviously we are moving in the right direction. Out of all the 70 airports in the state, we are currently ranked 9th overall. That's including commercial service airports in economic output. And then for general aviation airports, which are 62 airports, we are ranked 4th. Pretty good information. So on the operations side of things, our monthly operations for December was 1,743. Passengers enplaned, 9,115. And then vehicles in and out of the airport, 17,404. That brings our yearly total up to operations 27,078. Passengers enplaned 124,242. And then our vehicles to 211,136. One other thing on the passengers. So we can't count passengers like commercial service airports, but if we could, we would actually be ranked about 5th or 6th in the state on passengers, if that'll give you kind of an idea. We're doing more than Lake Charles Regional and Monroe. As far as the airfield drainage project, that project is complete. Final inspection is scheduled for January 15th at 2 p.m. And y'all do have a change order to approve later on. It's just a change in days, adding 14 contract days. So y'all have any questions?
Any questions for Joe?
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. And then the Airport Connector Road and Bridge project, Picciola and Associates. Joe.
So we submitted our 30% design submittal to DOTD back in October. We do have comments on those. We have submitted our right-of-way plats to them earlier this week. They've already sent comments back to them. Bryce and I are having a conference call tomorrow morning at 10 to discuss legalities and also details of those right-of-way plats. We've applied for our state permit, our Corps permit, and our Coast Guard permit, and we're currently in different phases of those permitting activities. We did have public meetings December 12th and December 19th to discuss the project, introduce the project to the public. It went really well. We had a lot of participation and had some good questions, comments. I feel we were able to answer a lot of their questions and concerns. The next big deadline we have is end of March. We're going to be submitting our 60% detailed design package to DOTD for review. So,
all right. Any questions? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Right, other projects. First is the Section 203 feasibility study, GIS engineering. Mr. Dave Bastian.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dave Bastian, representing GIS this morning to talk about the Port Fourchon deepening study. When I first started, oh, this thing's too short here. When I first started this thing, I had jet black hair, but just kidding. You know it's a good project. I know it's a good project. We have to convince Washington it's a good project, and I think we're well on our way of doing that. We had to do a little modification recently, and we have to play by the rules. You know that soccer has its own rules, football has its own rules, rugby has its own rules. Well, the Corps of Engineers has their own rules too. So we have to comply with those. And thus, the feasibility report complies with the Corps of Engineers criteria so that we can convince them that we have a feasible project. So right now, our status is that we're putting together the report that we plan to send up within a few days, we hope, to Washington and have them begin their review again and see where it goes. I'm confident and appreciate all the help that Chet and his folks have given us during the course of this effort. So unless there are any questions, that's my information.
All right. To add on to that, what we've been talking about this for several years. We've been working on this report. Where we are today is they're finalizing the addendum to the report, basically answering all the questions and concerns that the Corps and the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office had in terms of our initial submittal. We did multiple rounds of reviews. We're at that final stage where we're adding, putting our addendum together to submit there, and that'll be a GIS completing that hopefully by the end of the week, and getting that together and having it submitted. What we're doing now, as you all are aware, the goal is 50-foot draft to Port Fourchon for that Fourchon Island development. Based on some of the issues that we've seen in going back and forth with the Corps, it's imperative that we move forward in this next WRDA bill that's going to be coming out in 2020 at the federal government and get some approval. That approval will be for 30 feet immediately, which will actually allow us to get started dredging sooner than we thought, which is a good thing as we move forward with the 50-foot and proving to the Corps and the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office that 50-foot is feasible and justifiable. We know it is. All of the economics show that it is, and we're going to continue to put that together. But in order for us to move forward in a much quicker manner, we're going to go and get 30-foot approved while we're getting the rest of this approved for the future. Any questions on that? Okay. Next is the Highway Embankment Stabilization Project that we just recently did some work on. So, Davey,
yes,
give an update on that.
Highway Stabilization on Highway 308. We had a section near 74th Street, Southern Glass, that area. We did some work on an area that was scouring the mud away. So we've protected that section. We moved and started working south of the floodgates. There's some areas where the water crosses for storms. It's eating away some of the small rock right on the shoulder. So we're recapping that to prevent trash from splashing on the road when you have high tides and wave action. So that's where we're working now.
Any questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but I did receive a couple of phone calls from some of the property owners along that embankment, and they were very well satisfied, and kudos and good job to all the people who participated in taking care of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to an update on port communications and social media. Thad Angelos, up and give us a brief presentation.
Appreciate the time. As I kind of discussed on Monday, I just wanted to give a rundown of how things have performed, I guess, in 2019. I began kind of tracking numbers the day I started, which was November 26th of 2018. And I just wanted to kind of point out the growth that we've seen across all our social media platforms. I guess the first one to talk about is our Facebook. We've actually moved up by about 4,000 followers, which is definitely a significant jump. We've also seen growth on our Twitter account, where we've moved up by 360 followers, our Instagram account, and we even debuted a YouTube channel. And honestly, I thought that maybe in the first year we'd be up to maybe 50 subscribers. It's kind of hard to grow those YouTube channels, I find, as I kind of research other places, entities, and what they do. But as of today, this was dated December 31st. As of today, we actually have 154 subscribers to our YouTube channel. So across all the platforms, as you'll see, Facebook, we've grown by 72%. Twitter, we have been able to grow that by 51%, and on our Instagram by 116%. So we've seen a lot of growth on all those different platforms. I think I have another slide here, and basically what it shows is, it shows our Facebook page as we compare it to others. So that's what I tried to do. I went into every single port that I could find in the Gulf South, and several of them we were behind in 2019 as that year started. But I'm happy to report at this point in time, we actually have the most follows of anyone in the Gulf South. And we're actually in front of, you know, other larger ports, Port of Tacoma, Port of Seattle. And one of the ones I found most interesting is actually the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. It's kind of hard to see where the comparison is when it comes to that, because you're talking about several million people who live there and everything that's under their realm. Well, at this point in time, I mean, we're only about 400 followers behind the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. You know, when you combine that with, you know, other efforts that we've had in regards to trying to communicate with the general public and keep them informed, I point specifically to the storm event we had when we had Hurricane Barry. Did a lot of work when we, with Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, and I believe that we kind of became a community leader in regards to getting information out, and that's a lot of what we heard. A lot of things that are kind of unseen during those type of events. Just through Facebook Messenger alone, I received over 100 messages. People that might have had questions or concerns, or just offering thanks for the information that they were getting. That's very rewarding, and it's something that we should always be on the forefront of doing, is trying to answer those questions when it comes to the general public and giving them that information. So you'll see during that time span, you know, we were reaching over 250,000 people at a certain point during the storm. So people were definitely tracking what we were having and what we were doing. As we move forward into this year, I think I discussed with y'all, we have a quarterly newsletter that we're going to be launching. That's a professional type of newsletter, and basically what it'll have is it'll have a State of the Port address by Chet. It'll have a project spotlight included. It'll also spotlight you, the commissioners, as well. And it'll give information about one of our tenants, spotlighting them, and also people who are actually visiting the port on a regular basis. So that's going to be quarterly. We hope to have that out in the next couple of days, so you all see that, and we'll be sending that out to everyone that subscribes to us. So I guess in just summarizing this, we're very pleased with the growth that we've kind of seen in 2019, and I believe, you know, with us heading into the 60th anniversary, we're going to be rolling out a lot of different things in terms of talking about who we are, what we do, and things that people are receptive to seeing. And so we hope to continue to see this growth just moving forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Thad.
Thank you.
Any questions for Thad? I think what the whole point of him doing this presentation was to kind of inform the public of the different platforms we're on, if they're not aware of it, and then just highlight that the information that we're continuing to put out, people are looking at it, and it's important for us to continue to put out information to the public on a regular basis, because they're paying attention, and we understand that. So we're looking forward to the next year with the different platforms that we're going to be working on over the next year. Our next item is a presentation by Energy World on the Fourchon LNG project. Mr. Graham Elliott, thank you for being here.
Chet and commissioners, thank you very much. Honored guests, very, very much appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you and give you a little bit of an update on the Fourchon LNG project. As a quick aside before I start, it's very pleasant. I'm one of the followers of the Facebook page. Very often I will be sitting in my office in Manila. The sun is going down in Manila about the time you post a picture of the sun coming up in Port Fourchon, which is a reminder that we need to keep going on everything. The presentation will be made available to all the commissioners and everyone afterwards, but just to give you a brief update and a reminder of where we are, the Port Fourchon LNG project will be developed in 2 phases. The first phase is to develop the first storage tank, the first 2 million tons per annum of LNG production. And the first phase investment's about $888 million. The full-time employment will be something around 300 people directly. We think it'll have a knock-on employment of about 1,000 to 1,500 people. The LNG from the Fourchon facility will be primarily used for our own hub terminals. that we are developing in the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica, but also for our projects in Asia, in the Philippines, and other places where we are developing LNG import facilities and power generation to utilize this as a clean and economical fuel for the rest of the world. So you're all very familiar with the location of Port Fourchon. We are still absolutely committed to coming here and developing this at the port. We still think that this is the best location of anywhere along the Gulf Coast. We have a very close connection, as you will see in a second, with the gas pipeline. We're only about 300 or 400 yards away from the main Connecticut pipeline. We've been in discussions with them, and we've secured the use of that pipeline to bring us our feedstock gas. With the power supply, because the development is an all-electric modular LNG facility, we will actually have, we had a lot of discussions with Entergy as to whether or not they would bring power supply to the project on commercial terms, or whether we would develop power supply on the project site. Commercially, it turns out better that we develop the power supply. That is one of our core businesses, so we're very happy to do that. In the future, we will look at being able to make excess power available to customers in the region. That's something we will deal with at a future date, but there will be plenty of power brought in, and it will be of a stable and reliable supply. So in terms of project employment, as I already stated, the project for phase 1 will employ about 300 people directly, about 1,500 people indirectly. We do have a business philosophy that we will try and employ locally first. Now that works wherever we go in the world, so in the Philippines we'll employ from the community first. Here in America we'll employ from the community first. We actually prepared the bones of this presentation a while ago to present to the state governor, and whilst doing so we realized that actually we have a much higher American content in a lot of our products. So even in the Philippines, where we're developing the receiving terminals, because they use the same 60-hertz power system as America, most of our gas turbines, steam turbines, and the generating equipment are all manufactured in the USA. So we're using USA manufactured equipment. In Indonesia, where we're building the LNG facility, we're using all Chart manufactured cold boxes which come from New Iberia, Louisiana. So we've been all over the world buying American, and we will continue to do so for this project here. And this just sums up the team. We're working with people like Royal Entergy, obviously the port, JS Held. We've done all of the ship simulations through the METAG's PMI, and even TRC on the environmental. We've brought that down to their Baton Rouge office so that we run everything locally from here. This is far too small for anyone to read, including almost myself, but essentially it takes you through the timeline of the project. And a bit like your deepening study, these things unfortunately do tend to go on longer than you ever want them to, especially when you're going through the permitting phase. But we've completed all of the open house, we've completed all of the initial pre-filing documentation, with the exception of the two big pre-filing reports, which are called Resource Report 11 and 13. Those are just being topped and tailed at the moment, and we expect submission of those to FERC by the end of January, middle of February at the latest. That essentially brings the pre-filing process to just comments. We expect comments to take 4 months or so. Hopefully, it may be a bit longer. But we're aiming still to get out of the FERC process by the first quarter of next year, which means that we'd be able to start construction soon after that. So first half of next year, hopefully, for a start of construction. Now, there is a big Army Corps of Engineers permit in that. It may take longer, but we'll just keep pushing through it. So again, as a summary of everything, the project management team's in place, EPC contractors selected. We've done a whole lot of work on this and pulled all the detailed engineering together. The Resource Report 13 has something like 72 different sub-submissions that have to go with it to all the different agencies and things. So where we are, hopefully construction phase 1, mid-2021, maybe a bit later, but we'll keep you up to date with that as we know anything. And hopefully commercial operation of 2023 for the first phase. Now, just as a reiteration, we developed it in the 2 phases because for the first phase, we don't require the dredging program to happen. So this project will push ahead regardless. If the port does get to the deeper depths, we'll push on with phase 2. Although we did look at it, and as I said, we're developing in Jamaica with the hub terminal, and in the Philippines, we're well underway on construction and very near to completion of our import terminals there, which will become the consumer of our own LNG, which makes us a little bit different because we're not building it as a speculative sales. We're building it to produce fuel for our own plants that we're selling into the grid in those countries. And we are developing in excess of 7,000 megawatts in the Philippines alone. That would take 7 million tons of LNG. So even the full capacity of 5 million tons here in Port Fourchon would be absorbed through those projects and others. Some of the numbers that I've just included here were actually from the Department of Energy in the Philippines. They did their own studies to prove that imported LNG is their lowest cost fuel for power. So not only is it more environmentally friendly because they're displacing coal primarily, it's also the most economical source of power for the people, which is one of the reasons why we're pushing ahead with this. But also, just to give you an idea of the market that we are reaching to, they need something like 40,000 megawatts of new power generation. That would equate, if it was all on LNG, to 40 million tons of LNG required. So we're only looking for a small portion of that. We're trying to develop about 7,000 megawatts, which is 7 million tons, which is all of Port Fourchon plus room to take supply from other places. We are also still working diligently with GTT and various shipyards overseas. It is something we want to look at bringing to Louisiana to develop these small-scale LNG tankers. And these are a shallow draft, highly maneuverable, just over 350 feet long LNG tanker. And these are ideal for running the shuttle of the fuel from Fourchon to the Caribbean, Fourchon to other sites around the U.S. to start developing a domestic LNG market. So in summary, we're still pushing on. It's taken us longer than we'd like to. We are trying to do everything we can to mitigate things like noise events for the fish of Fourchon, but we will get there. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Graham.
Any questions for him? I think he answered some of your questions.
Yep, he has.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. All right, moving on to public comment. We have a few things I wanted to do under public comment, if you have me able to do that, Mr. President. First, I want to recognize a couple people in the audience. Since they're here, we've had some promotions from within to sergeant. So we're going from 2 sergeants to 4 sergeants to have both day and night covered with supervisory duties. So since they're here, we'll talk about them. We have Mr. Tate Lafont, who has been promoted to sergeant. Congratulations. We've also had Mr. Brooke Angelette promoted to sergeant. We've also had some transfers from road officers to Marine Patrol. So that's taking place from within. And then now we're on pace to hire 4 new employees, as was approved in our budget and as we've been talking about for a while now. So we have actually made an offer to one. I don't think they accepted. I'm not going to say names because they're not here, and we kind of don't talk about that in public if they're not here. And so there's 3 more that will be interviewed in the coming weeks, and so we'll have 4 new employees on staff very soon. All right. You have any comments, Chief, on that?
No. Thank you for the support for helping to move forward with the 2 new guys. The 2 guys are going to do great. We interviewed everybody. It was a tough decision. I didn't sleep for 3 days.
Yeah.
These guys are going to do great. And, thank you all for what you did for approving the expansion. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we have several elected officials in the audience, so I'd like to recognize those guys. First, we have our newest senator, Mr. Mike Facey. Thank you for being here. We have our state rep, Reggie Bagala. Hey, Reggie. Another state rep from the northern portion of the parish, Mr. Brian Fontenot. Our new parish president, Mr. Archie Chasson. And our parish councilwoman, Ms. Belen Boudreau. Thanks for being here again. And Mr. Daniel Lorraine is sitting right on the side of our parish. Thank you all for being here. Last but certainly not least, we have a presentation to a special gentleman in the audience. Our outgoing Senator Norby Chabert. He's been very supportive to us over the last about 12 years, right? And even before that. And I know he will continue to be supportive of us for many years to come. But we do have a plaque for him that reads, Senator Norby Chabert, in appreciation for your years of dedicated service and leadership on behalf of Port Fourchon and the South Fourche Leonard Miller Jr. Airport. We do have this plaque. Senator Chabert, if you can, come up here and receive that.
I thought at least in the 10th Ward you'd roll that R on the back.
Certainly appreciate it. Commissioners, always good to be with y'all. You know, when you see your public service mortality right in front of you, some ask what's next and are you going to miss it? There's two answers. TJ, one I love to say is I'm going to follow the path the Lord puts me on. And I think that's a good and right thing to say, both politically and otherwise, right? And then are you going to miss it? The thing that I've constantly found myself telling people is, you know, it's like a football coach. You know, you talk to them about all the successful football coach always, you know, gets talked to by people about what they've accomplished and the wins and the whatnot. But when they have a chance to respond, it's the losses that stick with them. In our line of work, if you do it the right way, you try to accomplish as much as you can. And in the era of term limits, you know that, you know, if you are successful, one day this day comes, right? So you look back on things that you've accomplished fondly, but you always look back on the things that you weren't able to accomplish. One of the first meetings I had with Ted, you know, but right before Chet had come on board, and certainly the first meeting that Chet and I had, both locally and in Baton Rouge, was about what the deepening of the channel meant, not only to the economics of the port, but to the region and the possibilities that could come after that. And it was a different time in the market, certainly. You know, oil was tracking a lot higher than it is today. But what was surprising was how little the state understood what an energy service port really, really was. You talk to folks that aren't necessarily from the coastal zone or don't necessarily have ports in their regions, and they just think of like Port of New Orleans, Port of South Louisiana, tonnage ports that do import-export, weren't really familiar with what we do here. But when you show them the numbers and what the ROI is, and more importantly, having a vision for the future, they light up and they support it. And even though we ain't quite where we need to be, it's exciting to hear that 30-foot is right on the horizon and 50-foot is going to come soon after that. One of the accomplishments that I am proud of is the writing of the Port Infrastructure Tax Credit that, as you recall, we had the Governor Jindal, come here and sign it right in this office. And that's a big deal. At the time, we were in a budget deficit, and tax credits across the board were on a chopping block. But working with this group, as well as LED, we wrote arguably the tightest written tax credit in the state of Louisiana, and it's being done the right way. And the first award of that credit was here for the Bollinger facility that's being built down there. And I think that it's going to be the job of this group, and certainly my successor, Mr. Fazy, who I think is going to do an excellent job for this organization. He's a man that knows this industry very, very well. I'm excited to hear about some of the committee assignments that he has already. He's certainly going to bring a lot of personal knowledge to that, and there's a lot more to accomplish. We were just discussing in the back about the need for the state support of the bridge for the airport expansion. Some of the numbers that Joe brought to you guys earlier, it's remarkable. You know, it's remarkable what that airport is doing. Took a lot on y'all part some years ago to decide to even get into that arena. But just like everything else y'all have done, you've been very successful with it. So I appreciate having the opportunity to work with y'all and serve you. You know, my daddy was from here, and I consider it part of my home. I tell people all the time, the Chavez ain't from Terrebonne, they're from South Lafourche. And I always consider myself a Lafourchon. But if there's anything I can ask, if y'all ever introduce, roll that R with that Norbert next time. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you,
I have.
I thought I had to take questions from Chucky.
And Norby, like Chet said, you started about 12 years ago to help us. You was actually 12 years old when you started, huh?
Right. But I'm gonna have the last statement here, Norby, for the first.
Do I need to stay in the
No, you do not have to. No, I just. Yes, I'm sure. I just wanted to again say thank you, and it's been a real honor, and I look forward to the years coming. But it's been a real honor in the last several years to work with you on some monumental legislation. I've learned a lot over the last 12 years on how all that works, certainly. I just made 10 years as port director, so there's been a lot of sausage being made around these ports for the last 10 to 12 years, and it's been an honor to work with you, and thank you very much for all the support. And obviously looking forward, Mr. Fazy and Reggie and Brian and everybody else, and Archie, in continuing to do the work that has been done over the last many, many years with this board and with the community. So thank you. Thank you, Norby. All right. With that being said, Mr. President, that concludes my Executive Director's report.
Ooh, it's about time. All right, next we have Executive Committees. Members are Chucky Sherman, Chairman, Rodney Gisclair Sr., Mike Cully, John Mellison Jr. First we have coming up is consider approving the Memorandum of Understanding Agreement with Andrew Martin. Mr. Chasson or Mr. Otan, which one do you want to take it?
Go ahead, Bryce.
Sure, we talked about this on Monday night. All of you have been aware for some time that we've been negotiating with Mr. Martin to acquire his property to locate the new airport connector road on. This would be a memorandum of understanding with Mr. Martin on behalf of himself and his family that basically reduces to writing things we've been discussing, I mean, for at least 10 years now. So none of this is things we didn't intend to do or that we haven't been discussing before. I included in your folder you know, what those provisions would be. It's pretty straightforward, but I would ask that y'all consider approving this agreement.
All right, first I need a motion.
Move.
Moved by Mr. John Mellison, seconded by Mr. Curtis Pierce. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have considered the cooperative endeavor agreement with the South Lafourche Economic Council in support of SLECA, Restore and Retreat, and LA1 Coalition.
Okay, this is the cooperative agreement that we do with SLEC that encompasses LA1 Coalition and Restore Retreat. We do this on an annual basis, and in essence says that SLEC's going to provide services that we're going to compensate them for. And South Louisiana Economic Council, SLEC, will receive $42,500. $10,000 goes to SLEC, $22,500 goes to the LA1 Coalition, and $10,000 goes to Restore or Retreat. Recommendation to approve.
Yeah, I need a motion. Moved by Mr. Larry Griffin, seconded by Mr. Curtis Pierce. Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next, we have considered approving the intergovernmental agreement with Lafourche Parish Government regarding for the beach maintenance, restoration, and protection.
Okay, so this project we have been working on and have budgeted. We've been working with Lafourche Parish Government on this project. And this is basically a cooperative endeavor agreement that outlines that there's about an $8 million project out there. $2 million is coming from bond proceeds that the Lafourche Parish Government bonded their future GOMESA revenues. We're going to put up $2 million for the project, and we're getting another $4 million from other entities to make that total $8 million project. Recommendation to approve this cooperative endeavor agreement.
Right, I need a motion. Moved by Mr. Jimmy Lafont, seconded by Mr. Rodney Gisclair. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next, considering approving the amendment of lease for Energy World USA for site WBL-1.
Okay, so this is the Energy World site. Their original lease was a lease for just 40 acres, but as part of the whole FERC process, it's shown that the safety zone and buffer zone area encompasses the entire 142-acre footprint, so that basically brings that whole footprint into the lease premises for that lease. So recommendation to approve this amendment.
Okay, moved by Mr. Mike Colley, seconded by Mr. Chris Colley. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Next, we move into construction and development. We don't have anything for permits and waterways today. So construction and development committees are Larry Griffin, chairman, Chris Colley, Jimmy Lafont, and Chucky Sherman. Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. First is consider approving the lowest responsive bid for the 2020 fuel supplier.
All right, so we took bids for fuel supplies for mid-grade unleaded gasoline and off-highway dyed diesel for equipment, and the lowest markup on the fuel prices is Gobar Oil and Company at 22.5 cents. Recommendation to approve.
Need a motion.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Rodney Gisclair Senior. Yeah, I gotta get that right. Second by Jimmy Lafont. Any discussion? Any public comment?
I just wanted to mention, y'all also have in your packet, they had a question about the taxes. So there's a packet in, some information in there for you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, next is consider approving the lowest responsive bids for the 2020 construction material supplier.
Okay, this is what we do on an annual basis for sand, topsoil, fill dirt, limestone, and filter cloth, and those sorts of things. We had 4 bidders, and 3 of those 4 bidders had some of the items that they were low bid on, so recommendation to approve all the low bids that Grand Isle Shipyard put in for, all the low bids that E&L Enterprise put in for, and all the low bids that Byron E. Talbot put in for.
All right, need a motion. Moved by Mr. Mike Colley, second by Mr. Rodney Gisclair. Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, next is consider accepting the clear lien certificate from Byron E. Talbot Contractors Incorporated for the Montgomery Senior Road paving project.
This project is fully complete. Recommendation to approve the clear lien certificate.
Need a motion. Moved by Mr. Curtis Pierce, second by Mr. Chris Colley. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Next is consider approving change order number 1 from Byron E. Talbot Contractors Incorporated for the airfield drainage improvement project.
Okay, so this change order is strictly additional days, 14 days to the project because of weather delays. We had a lot of rain at the time, and it was a drainage project, so that always causes problems.
All right, need a motion. Moved by Mr. Curtis Pierce, second by Mr. Rodney Gisclair Sr.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next, we have Finance Committee. Members are John Mellison Jr., Chairman, Rodney Gisclair Sr., Mike Cully, and Chucky Sherman. Mr. Mellison.
Good morning and thank you, Mr. President. We'll begin by announcing and approving payments of December 2019 invoices and recognizing those over $10,000. Excuse me. Item 1, Byron E. Talbert, Contractor, Incorporated. $197,803.28. That is for the Minor Sheremy Road and airport drainage. Item 2, Picciola and Associates Incorporated. $189,689.41. That is for the Airport Connector Road, Slip C, 1,100 feet, Slip C, 400 feet, and general engineering. Item 3, Sea Level Construction Incorporated, $183,556.62. That's for Slip C Phase 3 Bulkhead Part 2. Item 4, Shavers Whittle Construction LLC, $142,500. Slip C Phase 3 Bulkhead Part 1. Item 5, GIS Engineering, $138,537.10. Section 203 Feasibility Study, along with general engineering. Item 6, Grand Isle Shipyard, $55,534.83. As for highway embankment stabilization, along with contract labor for the airport. Item 7, Rocks Electric Incorporated, $49,616.13. That's for runway lights at the airport, along with maintenance and airport drainage project. Item 8, SLEC, $42,500. That's for the 2020 intergovernmental agreement for SLEC LA1 Coalition Restore Retreat. Item 9, Epic Aviation, $41,223.64 for fuel used at the airport for resale. Item 10, Angelette Picciola, $29,378.48. That is for the Fouchon Beach Maintenance, Restoration, and Protection Project, along with the completion of the Minor Sheremy Senior Road paving, Phase 1. Item 11, Vision Communications, $27,378.83, phone, internet, and cable services. Item 12, Guardian Computer, LLC, $21,755.06. That is for CSET and PCI audit evaluations, off-site backups. Item 13, Performance Power Sports, $16,685.74, and that is for a 2020 Polaris Ranger 1000. Item 14, Aon Risk Services Southwest Incorporated, $14,033. That is for airport liability insurance renewal. Item 15, Bank of America, $12,578.08. That's for monthly credit card charges. Item 16, Carasoft Technology Corporation, $12,029. And that's for support for cybersecurity centralized logging system. And last, we have AXON Enterprise Incorporated, $11,638, and that's for tasers for Harbor Patrol. The total of all these expenditures, including those over $10,000 for this month, is $1,853,466.50. And Mr. President, I would like to make a motion we accept these expenditures.
All right, Mr. Mellison, I have a motion from Mr. Mellison. Second by Mr. Mike Colley. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Next, we have consider approving out-of-state travel and training. We have Director of Homeland Security and Technology, Ms. April Danos, attending the AAPA Smartport Seminar and Information Technology in California, February 4th through the 7th. We also have Deputy Port Director Davy Bro along with Communications and Grants Manager Thad Angelos, attending the Deep Water Operations Topsides Platforms and Hull Conference in Texas, February 3rd through the 6th. We also have Scott Bynum, HP Compliance Officer, and John Crochet, IT Support Technician, attending the DMT Symposium Radar Training in Florida, March 2nd through the 6th. And last, we have Airport Director Joe Wheeler, attending the NBAA Schedulers and Dispatchers Conference in North Carolina, March 9th through the 14th. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. We accept the out-of-state travel and training request.
I got a motion by Mr. John Millison, second by Mr. Rodney Gisclair Sr. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
And Mr. President, this concludes the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Millison. Any other business?
I wanted to let the public know that our South Lafourche Levy District nomination is coming up. That is open right now. And it's on our website, so if you go to www.portfouchon.com and you look for that item, you could let us know if you're interested in being the Port Commission's nomination for the South Lafourche Levy District seat.
Okay. All right. Any other business? All right. Public comment. I need a motion. Moved by Mr. Jimmy Lafont, second by Mr. Mike Colley. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Thank y'all for coming to our meeting. We really enjoyed having y'all here. To our elected officials, y'all come back. We need your money. So come on back. Thank y'all.